Good Friday morning, Market Chameleons, and everyone join us for the first time. Thanks for coming by and checking out the Market Chameleon pre-market show with this man, Dimitri Programmatic. You see the disclaimer up there, D?
More no, I not yet.
All right, let me. Something went wrong.
Okay.
You
And
see it now?
yeah.
All right, perfect. All right, let's
So
just start with the disclaimer.
yeah. Good morning, everyone. Before we get started, keep in mind Will and I and Market Chameleon. We're not a registered investment advisor. We're not a broker dealer. We're not telling you what to do. We're just sharing ideas. If you need advice, call your registered investment advisor. Call your broker. That's what they're there for. Okay.
Excellent.
I'm gonna share my screen here. While I'm doing it, Will and I, if you're joining us for the first time, Will and I, we do these shows in the morning to try to help answer questions you may have about the Market Chameleon tools, the data, or the analytics. If you have a question, type it into that live chat on YouTube. Will's watching it. He'll read it back to me. And to give you guys a couple minutes to put in those questions, we'll start out taking a look at the pre-market report. Then we'll move on to the questions. And if we don't have a lot of questions today, I might have to cut it a little bit short today because I do have an appointment I got to make that's like right after the show. And so we'll
Perfect.
see how it goes today. And I think we do have a question left over from yesterday I'm going to cover as well.
Excellent.
So let's start out with the pre-market report. And these are stocks that are trading in the pre-market hours. You can see here we have our calendar view, which allows you to go back in time. You could choose a time this way. And that's if you wanted to go back to a historical date and see what happened in pre-market historically. But today we're on January 12th. And so far, from a high level, this is what's going on. We got 453 stocks that are trading higher in the pre-market hours, 349 stocks trading lower. We have 151 million shares trading on up volume and 69 million shares trading on down volume. If we convert that volume to dollar value, we have $1.3 billion worth of stock trading higher, $3.6 billion worth of stock trading lower. So it's a little bit of a mixed signal there. It's not really clear if things are trading more bullish or bearish. You got more stocks trading higher, but the dollar value of the stocks trading lower exceeds those that are trading higher. So far, that's is giving us a little bit of a mixed signal. As far as like the sentiment in pre-market hours, let's look at it from a couple more perspectives, then we'll go on to the questions. So I'm going to come down here and we have a list of stock symbols that are trading in pre-market hours along with the price changes, volume, and so forth. And we break it down to the most active list, our biggest percentage gainers, biggest percentage decliners. And here we got 92 stocks that made our biggest percentage gainers list, 68 on our decliners list. And to make this particular list, we do put in certain thresholds for volume, price changes, liquidity, because the pre-market trading can be much more illiquid, and you could only sometimes you only have one share that traded in the pre-market hours. So to make this list, these stocks have to meet our thresholds, but it could be any security that's listed on a major U.S. exchange. It could be an ETF, it could be a small cap stock, it could be a preferred stock or closed-end fund. And so far from this perspective, it does look like things in a pre-market are trading a little bit with a more bullish lean as far as those big percentage movers. But to narrow down to a smaller group of stocks, we could use the filters above. And if you have a watch list, you can filter by your watch list. I'm going to use this filter here in ETF. Let me click on it. You get a drop-down menu to select from. The first ETF is SPY. That's the one we're going to select. When you do that, the list below will get filtered by stocks that are holdings in the SPY ETF, which are the S&P 500 constituents. And here we get 19 stocks made our percentage gainers list, meaning that the percentage gains are, meaningful enough in the pre-market hours to make our percentage gainers list, and 15 are on decliners list. So this also kind of points to a slightly more bullish bias in a pre-market from this perspective. And I do think we started out today with some big earnings, right? The banks are started out today, like just
started their earnings season.
Started earnings seasons looks like Citigroup, JP Morgan. So over here, this little E is an indicator that there's an earnings. So Citigroup, JP Morgan out. Is that Delta Airlines out? So a couple big companies are starting to report earnings, beginning their earnings season. So that could be some reaction.
Yeah, and it's a big earnings season, right? The markets come storming all the way back. It's near all-time highs,
Yeah.
Things have to.
For sure. So we'll keep it out an eye for that. But I'm going to speed things up because
we only have one outstanding question. Nothing's popped in other than Rob did mention the JP Morgan blew the doors off the adjusted earnings. We had one outstanding question from yesterday and was concerning looking back at an options chain. Can you see, a previous options chain, a previous trading date, basically?
All right, thanks. So I'm going to use SPY. That's my default go-to page. And let's go to the options chain over here. And once so now we have the options chain for yesterday's close. We're not open yet. So this is the options chain for yesterday's close. And the question is, it's a good question. Can I go back in history to see the options chain? And you want to do that for various reasons. You might want to see what were the option prices yesterday compared to today. What were the option prices maybe in the morning compared to the end of the day, or what were they? If there's an intraday event, like maybe like a Fed meeting or some kind of a number that comes out, what did the options look like before, and what did they look like after? What did the implied volatilities look like before, and what did they look like after? Today, for example, JP Morgan and Citigroup reported earnings. Well, we could go back to yesterday's and see what did the options look like in the morning, in the afternoon, at the end of the day. And we can monitor them later today. In the afternoon, we might compare them. How did they open in the morning, and where are they in the afternoon? So for learning the dynamics of the market and how prices and traders and term structure, all this, the behavior of this, knowing those dynamics is important, right? Because if you know the dynamics and how options and traders and react, that's going to help you strategize and improve your own trading. So how do we go back then and check this, right? So first, there are two things we could go back. One is intraday, and one is going back in time, for previous days. So for intraday, all right, let's say this is yesterday's and we wanted to see earlier options chain. So of course, right now we have an options chain does have different expirations, and these different expirations, as you click through it, you get bids and offers for all these options. That's a snapshot of what the options look like at 3:59 and 30 seconds yesterday at the end of the day. And this is the stock reference at the time of this snapshot. Well, now we could go below. You see this timeline, right? And this here is a snapshot going back within the same day, right? So this is going intraday, and we have a time over here, time, and where the stock was. So we could kind of even tell how the stock progressed throughout the day, and maybe, just eyeballing it, I could see like, oh, it was, here it was on the low end, here then it increased. So if I wanted to go and just take a look at, well, what were the implied vols? I could take a look at what were the implied vols, how did a particular option look like, how did a particular expiration look like? We could just click on that. Let's say 12 p.m. And that will take us back to the 12 p.m. Options, right? So these are the 12 p.m. snapshot. So you can see here at 12 p.m., the stock was 42.62, and these were the bids and offers, and these were the implied vols. So I could just compare where they closed, 9.7. These were where they were at that moment, right? And if I was even curious to say, okay, well, what if I, did a call spread, or butterfly or whatever, I could set that up and then go from 12 to 4 o'clock or to whatever I want and see how that strategy changed, right, over time. So that's intraday. But what if I wanted to go back to yesterday or further? Then we could pull up a historical date, right? So if I click on this over here, now I have a calendar. So calendar will allow me to go back in time. So maybe I want to pull up, let's say I have to change the year because we're just in January, but let's say in 2023, we wanted to see how did the option chain look like at right before New Year's, right? So December 31st, how did these options look like? So obviously once I pull up December, why did I put, let's go to December 29th. Sorry, I had January. So December 29th would have been the last trading day, correct? Well,
Yep.
that was the last trading day of the year before we turn to 2024. So hold on a second. Okay, there we go. So when we're on December 29th, keep in mind that we pulled up a historical options chain. So in the historical options chain, this is what it looked like on December 29th. Some of these options already are expired, right? So December 29th, obviously today's January 12th, this option already expired. January 2nd, these options expired. January 3rd, these options. So we're looking at what they were like back then, right? So we're not going to see a January 3rd expiration today because that option expired, matured January 3rd. We're on January 12th, but we're going back in history. So keep that in mind, that if you're looking for this option today, you're not going to find it. We're looking back in history. But some of the options might still exist, right? Like, for example, January 12th, that will expire today. January 19th, that will still have, whatever week to go. So some of them, depending on how far back you go, they may still exist today, but we're looking at a historical snapshot of it, right? So here on December 29th at the end of the day, right? So this is default to the end of the day. On the January 12th, these are options that expired today. The stock was at 475. So actually, we didn't really do much since New Year, right? We've been just trading right around that 475 strike. So you could see here the straddle back then was like almost $8, just under $8. But these are what the options look like back then. And you could see from day to, we could change it from day to day as well, or you could set up a strategy here. But this gives you a snapshot view of historicals, and we could also go intraday, and see what did the options, what did they look like on that last day of trading, December 29th? How did they look at 2 p.m. versus how did they look by the end of the day? So, I don't have a specific example right now to go over. It was the question was more of like where the feature is, the functionality to bring up that data. We could think of a lot of use cases for it. However, for today's purposes, I just wanted to show you, to answer that question, to show you how to use this tool, to go back in history and where the feature is. Okay, so 2 things here. One, we could pull up a historical options chain by pulling down a calendar and selecting a historical date. And then we could come down here below the options chain, and we have this new selection, menu where it lets you click on a particular, time snapshot intraday. By clicking on it, you're going to go into, that intraday snapshot. All right. So those are the 2 ways right now to pull up a historical option chain. Right. So that's what we're looking at here. And if we don't have questions,
we had one question from Rick, who actually is a new premium user. So ring the bell for that. Thanks, Rick.
Okay.
He's coming to us all the way from the Philippines. I think it's the first person we've had on the morning show from the Philippines. He winters in the sounds like a beautiful area between the mountains and the sea in the Philippines. But
nice.
Any pictures, email me, Rick. I'd like to see it. But he was asking about SPX, why we don't have it on the platform. And will it be available maybe in the future? He's asking.
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. And so SPX, and as we're speaking, I am testing it out for the platform. We don't have that available today. We don't have it available right now. The reason it didn't come out with the rest of the, like, say, SPY, and all these single equity options,
ETFs,
or ETFs, like even SPY. So SPX itself, it's a index. Okay, so, just like VIX. So SPX, VIX, NDX, all these other ones we're working on right now. And they're an index. It's not a stock. So the index data comes from a different pipe. Okay, at least, like, not the options, but the index themselves. The other thing is that the indexes didn't fit into the initial models that we built, because aside from indexes, all these single equity and ETF options are American exercise. And, so we use a certain model for that. The indexes, they're European, they're cash settled. They have different expiration and settlement features than regular options. They're significant enough differences that it would not fit into the current models that we built out. So the models that we built out, for the website features, were focused on, American style options with single equities, like regular trading hours and so forth. So it involved a completely different, you know, set of development and programming, you know, and it has a lot of different nuances. So you have like AM settle, PM settle. We're going to discuss it once we push those out. SPX trades has 3 trading sessions. It has, you know, it has regular trading hours. It has global. It has curve. All these differences need to be accounted for. So initially when we created it, you know, we couldn't just throw SPX. It's not like a switch we could put in and say, oh, just include SPX, VIX, and NDX. We couldn't do it, right? Even if we wanted to, there's no way to do it. And it's taking, you know, a completely new set of development features to be able just to handle that index. Okay, those indexes. So there are a lot of, you know, and we're going to talk about them, because when you're going to bring them up, you're going to notice, you know, differences. You're going to see, like, yes, they're not like, you know, not just like, it's not going to be the same thing as SPY or you know, whatever single equity option. And the implied volatilities get calculated differently. You know, you're using a European style model. The historicals, all that, you know, needs to change. You know, even none of the tools that we built, you know, just easily fit into that SPX. So I guess I'm just giving you the reason why it's not available. Will it be available? Yes, we are. I could tell you for sure, you know, that I am testing it, you know, the SPX internally, you know, and and I'm seeing progress in it, and our intent is to make it available. I don't have a timeline because, you know, anything that you develop, it's very hard to, you know, you get past one stage and then on the next stage you get all these exceptions and bugs that then you have to fix that, and then you go to the next stage. So I could tell you how far along we are. Probably we have, you know, the options chain, you know, and the trades we have coming in. Right now I'm working, you know, out the implied volatility model. I'm testing it. I'm finding things here and there that need fixing. And, you know, so I'm at that stage and it's looking good, but, you know, but it's development, you know, you develop, you test.
Yeah, and we have so many features throughout the site, and pushing it into different, you know, people, when they bring it up, they're going to want to do everything that you can do with SPY, right? So
exactly.
you got to make sure each piece of the,
right.
You know, every protocol that happens with an SPY can work with SPX. I mean, the cool thing about it, I think, is, and like Rick, who's coming in today, you know, he's in the Philippines. God only knows what time it is in the Philippines, but the SPX trades on a 24,
right,
24/7, not 24/7, but almost 24 hours a day. So
yeah, it trades extended hours, exactly. Like it'll trade, you know, up to midnight, then it goes over, trades in a pre-market. So that's SPX. I had to look at VIX. I think VIX trades in the pre-market as well. VIX it's another, you know, beast, because you're moving from options on an equity, you know, like, you know, whatever stock or SPY. Some of these options are, it's a derivative on a derivative. VIX itself is a derivative, right? VIX is not even, it's, you know, it's a calculation. So you have options on a calculate, because VIX, what is it? It's a calculation based on implied volatilities on SPX. You know, so all these things, you know, you got to start accounting for and putting in, because what we're trying to do is when we push it out, you know, we want to go beyond just displaying the data, right? Because you could get that. We want you guys to be able to start using tools for analysis. And those are the things that the tools that exist for American style, single equity options doesn't they you we can't it doesn't fit into those index options, and we have to go in there and figure out, okay, what are all these weird things about SPX, that we are not accounting for? And you could look it up. You could look it up with your broker. You have your PM options, you have your AM options. Some options expire differently, during holidays, and you're like, well, so what? Well, when you're calculating implied volatilities and you're calculating, theoreticals, and you're calculating payout, that all that matters. And that's why all those even small details, we have to program in. So I guess the quick answer is, it will be, yes, we're working on it, and we want to push it out to you guys, and make it available with, the tools that you're used to be able to analyze it. And the reason we don't have it is the ones that I just described.
Yeah, and Rick says he uses the SPX for tax purposes and cash settlement.
Exactly. So there are a lot of benefits that SPX has over SPY, and we'll discuss those, but those are very good points. Yes.
Yeah. And anything you see, Rick, in the marketplace for XPS that you think is interesting and maybe helpful to Chameleon community, please email us, support@MarketChameleon. And that goes for anyone. If you have any questions or things you're seeing on the site that you have something to ask
particular
about,
tools that you think, right? Because
if there's a tool you would like to see that you haven't seen, doesn't mean we can do it. We have a backlog of projects, but it is something we'll look at. Awesome job, D, as always. Thanks.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining. Stay safe out there. Have a great trading day. Have a great weekend. Hope to see you guys on Monday.
Trade in peace, Clunes. Everyone have a great day. Bye.
Bye.
Actually, we won't be here Monday, D. It's Martin Luther King.
Oh, no, Monday. Sorry, Tuesday. We'll see you guys
Tuesday. I almost hit the end before that. So we will see you on Tuesday.
Yep.
With that reminder, I have a webinar. This is a surprise webinar. Dan Passarelli. He's doing his earnings webinar. So I'll put the link in to register for that if you're so inclined. That is Monday evening. We're going to do that. So, all right, I'll see you on Tuesday.